Hi guys, and welcome back to DadBodGaming Reviews. We aim to bring you reviews for the newest releases as well as nostalgic and indie games. Not only that, but we do tech reviews, whether it be game consoles, controllers or simple wires and battery packs. We will buy it, test it, give you the verdict. Hi guys, and welcome to the new gaming news video. First off, I want to start by saying last year was an amazing year for gaming, with releases like Red Dead, Spider-Man, God of War and so many others. But there was one game in particular that made it bigger than most, and believe it or not, it was a free-to-play game, and of course it was Fortnite. Love it or loathe it, you can't deny that we are living in a Fortnite world in gaming at the minute. And that leads us to a bit of a problem, because every gaming company now wants to create the next Fortnite, the next game that will define that year and earn millions or more during its lifespan. And when it all goes good for the gaming company, they're the first to brag about it and shout it from the hills, but when it doesn't work out for them, well, the opposite actually happens. So in this video we are going to look at the opposite end of gaming success. We're going to be talking about what the industry considers failures of the last year, and what games last year failed hard. Okay, so first off, let's get the surprising one out of the way now. Black Ops 4. When that was released, it dominated the gaming world for a while, and it still is. A lot of my friends are still playing it online and they love it. And Activision actively admitted that it was their largest digital sale ever. But shortly after they admitted that, their stock started to drop. Why was that? Let's have a look. Shortly after Activision announced that Black Ops 4 sales had reached over 500 million, after 3 days of being on sale, their stock dropped by 9%. Now that doesn't sound like a lot, but if you put it into perspective, that is a hell of a lot of money. And this was due to the fact that their sales targets were extremely higher than what they actually received. And this brings it back to Fortnite. They expected a lot more, so let's put that into perspective. $500 million. What could you buy for $500 million? Seriously, do you not know what you could buy for $500 million? Because we don't. I mean, $500 million, they consider $500 million not high enough. They wanted more. So what do they consider the right amount of money for 3 days of being on sale? But that's just the tip of the failure iceberg, with other fails including Fallout 76, obviously, Battlefield 5, Shadow of the Tomb Raider, Metal Gear Survive, and the overkills The Walking Dead. Now, I don't think due to some of the fails that the gaming industry is going to collapse, because we did have that in the early 90s when Nintendo and Sega just dropped and we had a brand new PlayStation out. PlayStation dominated the market in the early 90s. But I have seen that there is a serious problem with companies like EA, Activision, Bethesda, Capcom, Square Enix and Ubisoft and many more. And the problem is arrogance, which is the reason why they have lost billions in stock. Now there is a different reason why these companies have lost millions. There is a different reason why Activision has lost millions compared to Square Enix or Ubisoft or Bethesda. So what I'm going to do is we're going to sit here and we're going to go through why they lost so much money last year. And first up, it's Konami. Now I am a lifelong fan of the Metal Gear series. I have played all the Metal Gears, from the original Metal Gear all the way to Metal Gear 5. I've even played Survive. It hurt, but I played it. Now, Metal Gear thought they could go ahead without Kojima in the Metal Gear series, and their best idea was to use a simple asset flip and just add dog dick zombies. It's the only way I can explain them. They're not real zombies, they're just zombies with dog dicks for heads. And the gaming community saw right through it the second they released it. Now, the only thing I will say about it is they didn't offer it a full price game. They did openly turn around and say that this was a stopgap game, but still, even after that stopgap game, Konami's stock plummeted and they've had to take serious thought about where they're going to do next with the Metal Gear universe. Next up is Square Enix. They thought spending $135 million on a new narrative based Tomb Raider game and releasing it in the most highly competitive month of last year was a good idea, and because of this, their sales are 70% down compared to the last two reboots of Tomb Raider that they did. And again, 70%, that is a lot of money. Now, that could have easily been solved by just moving the game back or moving it forward a month or moving it back a month, but they didn't consider that. Now we get to some of the real problem game companies, and we're starting off with Capcom. Capcom thought pushing in-game advertisements onto Street Fighter V was a great idea. Really? Especially considering we're already paying £60 for a game. Forcing players to watch an advert to view the rest of the game? Really? This isn't a mobile game, that isn't a free to download game, that is a £60 or $60 game that you've grafted for, that you've earned money to go buy, and they're putting some of the game content behind adverts? Really? Now, Capcom have recently backtracked on that scheme and they have started to remove a lot of the ads from the game, but they did it, and that is a dangerous trend. Now you imagine if people would have gone out and bought it and been okay with it, a lot of other game companies would have started doing it. And this brings us back to the microtransaction bit. That microtransaction started because EA thought it was a good idea to put them in FIFA, and then they thought, well hang on, if we can get away with it in FIFA, why don't we do it in Star Wars? And people weren't okay with it, but by that point it was too late. I don't want to see another trend start that might damage our AAA games anymore. Moving on to Ubisoft. Ubisoft announced earlier this year that single player and games are now dead and live service games are the way to go forward, which is a lousy excuse to just shove more microtransactions down our throat. It's a pathetic excuse. 2K Games, that they had to make excuses for their greedy microtransactions, stating that microtransactions are an unfortunate reality for the modern gaming world. Basically saying, everyone else does it, why can't we? And then we move on to the big one, Activision Blizzard. Now they are the one company who seems to always manage to hide away from the spotlight after doing his anti-player practices for so many years, normally with Call of Duty. Now I know I'm going to have the Call of Duty fanboys moaning at me, but it has to be said. But as it stands now, Activision is currently destroying what we loved about Blizzard with cutting costs, wanting more games released, and this is another problem with the gaming industry now. It's quantity over quality. They'd rather shove out 10 games a year that no one wants to play than shove out one game which people are going to love. Red Dead Redemption. Take Battlefront for instance. They produced a game very quickly after the first one, and look how bad it was received. But then look at Rockstar. They took years to produce Red Dead 2, and look how much we applauded that game. I admit I love Red Dead, I'm a fan of that game. You also have Activision and Bungie at odds with each other, with Bungie singing the praises of Destiny 2 and being very happy with where the game is going at the minute, and Activision saying something very different. Activision is stating that the title is so underperforming and promising to push more microtransactions and monetization schemes to make up for the loss in profits. Yeah, because that always works great, doesn't it, EA? Then we come to the big one, Black Ops 4, which has been called out for its shady, pathetic microtransactions, which are pretty much a carbon copy of Epic Games' Fortnite Battle Pass, but there is one massive difference between Fortnite and Black Ops. Fortnite is free. Fortnite is a free-to-play game. I have no problem with monetization in a free-to-play game. At the end of the day, the publisher deserves to eat at the end of the day, they deserve to earn money. But doing it in a AAA, £60 game? Now you're probably thinking, hang on a minute, when that game came out I looked at the reviews, why didn't I see that? That's because Treyarch and Activision were actually clever. They closed their black market shop for 4 or 5 weeks until the reviews had been done, until people had already bought the game, and then they added it in. So at that point, it was a bit too late. And even that black market shop's a grindy mess, which now makes me think gone are the days where you have to complete challenges to unlock cool things for your guns. You just have to buy them. I mean, that's just a scummy practice. Now, since the release of Black Ops 4 to today's date, Activision stock has dropped 50%. That is a huge amount of money if you consider what other games Activision produce. Next up, Bethesda, and their troubles are really just everything. I mean, I do have another video based on Fallout 76. Please go and have a look. But I'll just skim over the main points of Fallout. Fallout 76 is a broken game inside and out. The game has been a total train crash. When the first Country Road trailer dropped, nothing was really cleared up. They didn't give any details of the game. They just went, yep, we're going to produce a Fallout. There you go. And when Bethesda started taking pre-orders for the game shortly after without clarifying what people would be paying for, some of the customers started getting really upset. But there really is fault on both sides of that. Yes, Bethesda should have gave more details, but people shouldn't have gave money without knowing what you're going to buy. I mean, you wouldn't go to a car advert that just says car for sale and just buy it off eBay. You'd read in, you'd review. The other thing is Bethesda tried to get away with not doing any marketing for the game, relying on the word of mouth and the media to do it all for them. That way they wouldn't have to pay a single thing, and I'm sorry, but that's just cheap. Bethesda tried to release the beta for the game not months before the game released, but weeks before. And by the time the game got released after that, nothing had changed. And oh my god, bug. They should just call it Bug Out 76. When the game was released, players review bombed the game, and then the actual reviewers started piling their scores on, and it just didn't look good. Now, since the game release, we've seen Bethesda in the firing line for its policy refunds as well, which state if you download the game, you're not entitled to your money back. Oh yeah, there's Backgate. Check out my video for details during Backgate. That's another thing. During the Backgate, Bethesda suffered a data breach, leaking the personal details of their customers. And then we come to my favourite subject of all, microtransactions. They added a microtransaction store, which is a total rip-off, paying £5–10 for things that were in Fallout 4. And 90% of them were just skins and emotes. Paying £15 for 4 tattoos? Seriously? And then in the game files, data miners discovered plans for loot boxes, which had game-altering effects, which means Bethesda were planning on doing an EA, which is another promise that they broke to the players before they released the game, which was no loot boxes and nothing that is play to win. To put it bluntly, Fallout 76 sales are down 80% compared to Fallout 4, and Fallout 4 is an older game. This works out to be a lot of money that Bethesda have potentially missed out on. Now, and of all of the ones that are on my list, Bethesda are the only one I feel that could turn it around, but I'll talk about that at the end. Finally, we move on to everyone's favourite game developer, Electronic Arts. They started last year dealing with the immediate fallout from Star Wars Battlefront 2, and a few weeks later the problem seemed to be like it was going away. People started talking about it less and less. But EA, being EA, turned the gamers against them again with the reveal of Battlefield 5, and the comments coming out soon after from the executive Patrick Sutherland proved to be too much for some gamers, as instead of trying to get the gamers on his side, he chose to make fun of them, complaining about the game, which ended up Sutherland giving gamers the ultimatum of buying it or he doesn't really care. Direct quote, well, I think it was, if you either buy our game or don't. If you tell someone to not buy your game, that is a real smart move, telling your customer base not to buy something from you. And guess what happened? We didn't buy it. But I do wonder how many gamers were turned away by their game becoming way too political for a World War II shooter. Outside of Battlefield, EA have been the only publisher fighting hard against the loot box regulations that is starting to gain traction worldwide. But if loot boxes are to be regulated, EA are going to fall on their sword, and they are going to fall hard. Think about their games like FIFA and Madden. 90% of the revenue from FIFA and Madden is loot boxes. Now think of what would happen if they had to disappear. Think of what happened in the next FIFA game or the next Madden game. Interestingly, like all of EA's cock-ups, this would have just happened because they just didn't know when to shut up. After release, EA and DICE were holding a party to celebrate the year for them, like there was much to celebrate, and EA couldn't help themselves. A leaked Twitter photo that showed a back screen with all the divisive comments made by gamers towards the game, and the head of EA and DICE thought it would be funny to show their staff all the things that have been said, that people have been said about their game. All of these problems have culminated in EA stock nosediving over 50%, and again, that's a lot of money for a company like EA, and it will be interesting to see if they can pick themselves up from this monumental cock-up. Will EA start making games for the gamers, or are they just going to continue doing what they've always done and make games for the shareholders? And that's another thing, as game publishers continue to complain about the cost for developing a purely single-player game and why is it difficult to make a AAA game in a landscape without monetization, I do believe that this is due to companies like EA and companies like Activision not being interested in making a good quality game that sells for 6 or 7 million copies. I'd rather have people paying top dollar for a half-done game and sell them the rest when they could be bothered to do it. Now, as I said earlier on, I do believe Bethesda are the only game company that I have stated that could turn it around. I do hope that Bethesda realise they made a mistake with Fallout 76. They put their hand up and go, I'm sorry guys, we won't do it again. And I'm still excited for the next Elder Scrolls game. I'm still excited for another Fallout. I hope Bethesda listen, because we had Bethesda in our hearts as gamers, and I do worry that we did look at a lot of their older games with rose-tinted glasses. But those glasses have been ripped off now with Fallout 76, and we will look at their games hard, and they are going to get some severe criticism on their next games. Now, I don't think that the gaming industry is going to need a purge, but I do think that some of the big boys need to have their nose blooded up by smaller games with less of a budget that do better. But it is funny how not all big game companies are on this list, especially when it really makes you appreciate game companies like CD Projekt Red with the fantastic Witcher 3 and the soon-to-be Cyberpunk game, which I am so excited for. And once again, they don't monetize their game, and they produce it to the best they can. Do I think it's too late for companies like EA and Activision? Yeah, I do. I think microtransactions like a gaming drug, and once the companies are hooked in it, that's it, they're never going to get off it. Eventually loot boxes will be legislated, and EA will have to take back their loot boxes from games like FIFA and Madden, and I think you are looking for the end of that game and end of EA. And to be honest, as much as I do like and enjoy playing FIFA, again, I only play the career mode, I don't play online, and I don't buy to play Ultimate Team. I could learn to live without it. But on the flip side of it, you've got free-to-play online games like Star Trek Online that does have loot boxes in it. Not so much loot boxes, but monetization. But it's a free-to-play game. I can understand that. Why do big game companies feel the need to add these loot boxes in, which is going to completely destroy their reputation? Do EA not realise how much we hate them? I find it hilarious, to be truthfully honest. I genuinely do find it hilarious, and I do wonder what 2019 is going to bring for EA, because we have Anthem out next month, and Anthem basically is Destiny 2 with an Iron Man suit. That's how I see it. But I'll pick it up and I'll do a review of it for you guys, and I hope to God you enjoy it. But okay guys, thank you very much for watching this video. I hope you did enjoy it. So if you did enjoy it, please hit that like button and subscribe down below. Okay guys, I'll see you next time.